want to see us going into these games and blowing teams away that we should be, especially at Ibrox.
Yeah, that's been an issue this season. There's been so many games where it's gone down in the last few minutes and we're still only a goal up. And we have that scar tissue as Rangers fans over the last few years. How many times have we seen a late goal going against us? So to see us actually go out and dominate teams and put them to the sword early doors, it's what we need to do, and we need to translate that into the league. And to see a lot of different goal scorers is great as well, because again, over the last few years, Rangers have been overly reliant on a couple of players for goals, and to see that getting spread about at the weekend was great to see.
Yeah, Andy, there was two guys I was going to kind of highlight. One was obviously the first goals for Ryan Naderi. I seen your colleague Keith Jackson likened him to Jelavic in a piece yesterday. I mean, I have to say, if he's half as good as the big man, then we're in for a real treat. And the other one was Antman. I know you done something on him. He's struggled like so many others. I think with the pressure of Ibrox, the pace of the Scottish game, and caveat it with the fact that it is Queen's Park. It is a team that's struggling at the bottom of the Scottish Championship. But that kind of confidence they can build for that can only be a good thing, surely.
Yeah, I mean, he spoke about that himself when we met with him in the press conference after the game. That this is a team that's easy to come into and play for. It wasn't quite as easy at the start of the season when he was, playing for this side that was getting booed off, and every week and there was protests outside the front door. The manager was getting escorted almost off the premises with a police escort. This is. It's such a different picture to the one that we saw at the beginning of the season. So it's the pressure's off in a sense. Him coming in, there's other players that are stepping up and taking responsibility and driving the team on, and it allows the guys that maybe you've got to cut them some slack in the sense that they're new into a new club, a new country under Russell Martin. They were trying to learn a new way of playing. It was pretty radical. Whereas Danny Rose stripped it back and. It's playing a more, just a style of play that's just easier to get your head around. Not quite so many chances, unnecessary risk taken at the back. And listen, yeah, I mean, there was definitely question marks asked over individuals at the start of the season in terms of how do they handle the pressure at Ibrox. Well, I think you've got to say, of late, they've handled it pretty well. Some of the fans, as you saw last week, are still, Scott and I discussed last week, are still to be utterly convinced by this team, to trust them more. I think if they can come through this week against, obviously, Motherwell and Hearts, I'm sure we'll come on to. I think if they can come through that, I think you'll see that trust, that belief, that faith in the squad come back in abundance. But, that's still a pretty big if as we sit here right now. But in terms of Antman, yeah, he's definitely, I mean, I just couldn't get my head around him to once at the start of the season. That's a guy that was get 15 assists in Holland last year. And when he came into the team, he obviously had that great night against Victoria Pilsen where he basically creates 2 goals. But bar that, he'd really not done much at all in an attacking sense. He seemed intent on whenever he got the ball on the right hand side, coming in field onto his right foot, but then not really being in the sort of shape in order to pass the ball, to cross the ball, to shoot. He started in the left hand side on Sunday. He made his sort of return to the team against Cranmare, where he gets his first ever goal for the club again off the left hand side, and all of a sudden to me it made a lot more sense. He was coming in, he was getting involved, he was playing 1-2s. Obviously, he gets his goal. I asked him after the Queen's Park game if the left hand side was his preferred option. He said no, not really. For Go Ahead Eagles last year, he played predominantly right. For Finland, he plays predominantly left. He's happy to play on either side. So, but really, what Rangers need him to be doing is getting numbers up. It's getting goals. It's getting crosses in. It's getting assists. He wasn't doing that at all at the start of the season, and he was struggling as everybody else was. But if he can get himself in. Gets an assist as well at the weekend, setting up header for Ryan Naderi. If he can add that back to his game, then he can be an effective weapon. I think there's a lot of people that was wondering, what's happened to this guy. As he said, he was so dangerous in Holland last year, and he's looked anything but that so far for Rangers. So getting him back to that kind of form will be good news for Danny Rowe. As for the comparisons with Big Naderi and Jelavic, I've seen one of our colleagues last week comparing two Romans with Arthur Newman. I think we should just calm down with the comparisons a wee bit. It's been a fortnight with some of these guys. I think they've got a long way to go before you can start talking about them in the same breath as those two are particular who are legends. Good starts, but Naderi certainly showed he's got a nose for goals. Obviously, gets himself off the mark. Kelly Dawes gets himself another header at the start of the second half against Queens. But really, what impressed me was just his desperation to get across the front post, to get to the back post, to put himself in positions to score goals. Every time there was a ball flashed across the box, he wasn't far away, which is not something I think you can say about Rangers strikers this season. Yusuf Chermiti at times it seems slow to react. As much as I think he's improved, especially outside his hold-up play and how much of a sort of focal point he is in terms of getting the team up the pitch, when it comes to doing what a striker's supposed to do, and that's getting the end of crosses, putting himself in a position to score. I still think there's question marks over his hunger. I think Naderi, you can see he's a proper centre forward, he's a proper number 9. He wants the ball into the 6-yard box and he wants to be sort of getting himself in the end of it. So Cap keeps that up this week, especially a tough game tomorrow night against Motherwell. Then Rangers fans can be really encouraged by what they've seen from him so far.